Hey, this is Hans from Request for Music, and this video I want to explain just a bit more of how I think about those units, as I call them, actually, because obviously it's harmonics that you work with, but each unit of a frequency, coarse and fine frequency, a phasing, a panning, and an envelope, and a basic shape of sine, triangle, saw, square that defines one block within harmonics. And you got all of those 64 blocks or units that you can switch on actually. And I wanted to talk about helper units, so to speak. So that means that if I now have a sound, I'll just press a key and I only have one sine wave, right? Because I've got these two harmonics, or one harmonic selected, because I had it at select basic, and most of the time I start off with select basic, so I just add harmonics or those units that I want. Or depending on what I want, it might be if I went into additive kind of way more, I could still add it like this, but it could also select, for instance, the select all setting for this, or any of the other ones that just switch on any of those harmonics. I go to the contour setting because I want it flat. I want all of those now to be flat in such a way that I approach the sound as sort of a DX7 kind of sound, and I'll take this into unison, and I can always try later what it works out if I change this to any of those other frequency scales that you can select. Excuse me. But first let's do it like this. So I got one sound obviously, and the real advantage over a DX7, apart from that there's obviously a lot of stuff in a DX7 that's not in here, but if you think of the algorithms in a DX7, there's only one oscillator or one operator within an algorithm that can have feedback. Well, within harmonics, you can actually have every of those, let's say, units or harmonics. I can have every of those have its own feedback. So if I have this first harmonic selected, I can get sorry, I can go to this root list, select my number one, which is actually the only one available in the list because it's the only one selected. So I've got my number 0 harmonic selected, and I'm going to take the output or the envelope output. The difference in there again is that the output does not change over time. It's the output remains the same, where the envelope out is being affected by the envelope settings. So I'll take the what shall I take? I'll take the envelope out for now, and I'm going to use as target himself or itself number 0, and I'm going to affect the phase. And if I've changed that path, I need to add it so it gets into this list. And it doesn't do anything yet because the depth is at 0, but as soon as I'll dial this up, you'll hear that we get the feedback. And obviously that changes the way that the wave looks, as you can see in the multi-oscilloscope. And maybe I'll just drag this back here so you can see it a bit different. And the higher it gets, where is my mouse? Oops. Where is my mouse? My mouse has suddenly disappeared. Oh, there it is. Sorry. So if I dial this up, I get more frequencies in there, and if I go all the way up, it's distorted, so I can use it for noise as well. And since I can actually have a next harmonic modulate this one, I could even do that to change that, to get even more noise. Let's put it back to some usable setting. If I wanted to use another harmonic as a helper, and let's from now on just use the word harmonic, but harmonic as said and yeah, it actually takes all of those values in there for a harmonic. So now I've got this sort of a basic sort of filtered sawtooth shape. Let's take a new harmonic in there. So I could take any one in order, but if I because all of those are having the same frequencies at the moment because I've got it set to unison. But let's say first of all I'm going to take this one because it's going to define how this sound will change, how what I can do extra. I mean, if this would have the output as a setting to drive the phase of itself, and I can do that by just selecting through this. I mean, if I click on this, I would select anything in that list, and so if I want to change this to output, I'll just update this, and you see that it has been changed, which has its effect because now it's not an envelope driving it, but it's the actual sound itself. So first of all, switch this off. So I can drive this at first to have sort of a basic wave, but now obviously because I can click a next one on, I can use that second harmonic without hearing it to drive my number 0 again. So if I first of all go into my number 1 setting and change it to mute, I don't hear it. There's no output, but of course I can go into number 1, use the envelope setting, over the envelope out setting, to drive number 0 and the phase and add this to it. So now that means that the combination of level here and the depth decides what the extra phase modulation for number 0 will be. So that means that if I want a setting like this, I can indeed change my decay now, for instance, or my attack, to have that effect change the sound. So, and the deeper I go, the more I modulate it, of course. So that means that, and now I've got it set to unison, but if I set it at harmonic, then my number 1 would be the following the harmonic scale, so you get more frequency content in there. So I go back to unison again. So at least I can drive the way this is handled with number 1, and I can obviously put an extra one in, and then I have all of those coarse frequencies. So if I want more frequency content, I can use that. So I'm going to use number 2, and I'm going to drive number 0 again. So I'm going to mute this, and I'm going to use the number 2 envelope output to drive number 0, the phase, and I'm going to add this to it. So again, I can dial this up. So I could do something like this. So now I actually have 2 of those harmonics driving number 0. And maybe change my release back. So if I now would want more frequency, I could of course dial this up. Maybe I'll set this to 10, something like this, and then obviously the depth will have to change, otherwise maybe something like this, and or maybe I just want it to be a sort of a pulse at the beginning, so maybe something like this. And this tone obviously is because the number 0 is actually the one that delivers the output level of everything overall. This is going to change the the outcome. So if I wanted to stay longer, now the release decides that the overall output is at that level. Let's say that I wanted to have some vibrato in there. I could obviously use the LFO. There's one LFO in there, but on the other hand, if you think a bit differently, I still have 61 oscillators that I could use as low frequency oscillators if I wanted to. So if I, for instance, and now I might change to something like number 16 because I want to use that as a helper sort of thing for the vibrato. So I'm going to select number 16. I'm going to that, and I'm going to use it muted, and I'm going to use it fixed because I want to set it at a specific frequency. And well, let's first set switch off envelope, and I could even switch the no gate on, so that means that it is not responding to a gate from the outside, but it means that it's always on, right? So now if I would take my number 16 oscillator and I'm going to dial that into, and I'm going to take the output again, and I'm going to put that into number 1 and not into the phase, but in coarse, fine, or pitch. Let's put it in fine first, and let's see what it does. Oh, I didn't add it. My bad. Let's see. Now the frequency is actually the same level. So, or sorry, it was at the same frequency. So let's dial this back, and now you can hear that I can use this to but obviously I have the option of changing to a triangle, to a saw, or to a square. So you've got more options there now. The other thing is that if I want this, I'm only driving number 0, which means that the other harmonics are still affected or are not affected by number 16. So that is actually what you hear now, because you just got sort of an offset there in frequencies. So what I could obviously do is take this number 16 output and drive the fine of the other oscillators as well. And actually it starts, or it ends with a certain number here, but you actually can build many routes in there. So let's also drive number 1. So I'll only have to change this one was still selected, and add that one, and I'll take number 2 in there as well as add that. So now in 16 I can set my thing to sine again, and if I don't want to have to change all of this, I can actually also change the level here. And speed obviously is arranged by the coarse or the fine tuning. And now obviously I don't want it like this. I don't want it to sound all of the time. But again, if I change, or if I set another helper, so to speak, and let's now do number 32, because it's not important which one you really use. I'm going to use number 32. I don't want it to deliver any sound, and actually I don't need anything of that sound at all, because actually all I want to do is use its envelope. So if I look at number 32, I'm going to take its envelope out, and the envelope out will change number 16's volume, so like this. So, and now Let's see. I'm not quite sure why it does that. Or otherwise I can use... And you can actually, of course, try all of those settings. But the main thing is maybe I should use the envelope instead. Because the one can modulate the other, and that's actually the thing in here. So you could use a couple of those units driving all of them together, or having drive the one or this 16 drive number 1 or 0 or 2, or maybe drive number 32 as well, so you get sort of a cross modulation. There's a lot of things like that you can do, and actually, as I said, and this was in the update, or in the previous update already, that it counts the number of routes. So as I said, if I would do this, you'll actually see that it can go up till how many you want, and that's why, because then obviously it can be very difficult to find stuff. I have been looking, and maybe I can try to get that working in a later version, where you hopefully be able to filter out some stuff in here. But in the meantime, I've got a ordering option, so that means that if I click on the index here, that the indexes are in order. If I click on the source index, SIDX, then the sources are in order. So if I go back this way, you'll see that at some point I get lower numbers there, as you can tell. And if I click on the TIDX, which is the target index, then the target index is in order. And with the target, then the targets are in order. So at least you keep stuff like the fine and the phase and the volume and that kind of stuff together, so it gets a bit easier to go through the list and do whatever you need there. So yeah, that's again just to show how you can handle that kind of things. And you could even use stuff like the modulation wheel or the velocity to dial in there, and the velocity to change or to drive the volume, for instance. You could do that, or the modulation wheel to drive volume or phase or whatever. For instance, I've got sort of a lead sound here. I think it was this one. Where I have the modulation wheel, you don't see that probably, but actually the modulation wheel is turned into here. So the modulation wheel drives the external number 1, and external 1 is, as you can hopefully see here, actually external 1 is driving the harmonic 48, and it's driving its volume. So in 48, I then have my level pretty low, or maybe even at 0 if I can get away with that. And then the modulation wheel, so I would have to look to the settings. I see that I have depth not too high, and then if I press a tone, and if I want to change something to this, could for instance go into this number 48 and dial the coarse down, and maybe dial the depth up. So maybe dial it up all the way. And now make sure that my frequency is as I want it, and then yeah, dial this back again. something like that. So that's how you use those helper things. So in this case also I had a couple of harmonics that were interconnected, and as you can tell from this list, 0 was the main oscillator, number 1 was muted, but that's used to drive the phase of, and you can tell that from that list here. So number 0 is driving itself with some phase, number 1 is driving number 0, and number 2 is driving 0 as well. So, and apart from that, I had all of those frequencies, the fine tuning fine for 0, 1, and 2, driven by number 48 as well. So you can see that numbers 1 and 2 were both muted, but did have their envelopes on, so it could drive the phasing of the other. 48 itself, no gate, muted and fixed, low level, so the volume is mainly decided by the modulation wheel. So that's why you can hear the modulation getting in if I dial this up. Dial this up a bit. So yeah, that's again a bit about all of those helper thingies in there. So I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you back in the next one. Cheers, bye bye.